Yeah, welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast live. Yes. As you can see, I got my main man G here with me, and you know what we're gonna do. We're gonna drop some knowledge on y'all on the sports tip tonight. But before we get to that, you know what time it is.
If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast, and we should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. And finally, make sure you write it down, put it in your phone, set an alarm, do whatever you got to do to remember. Saturday nights at 7 p.m. we are live here on the Format Podcast, and we'll give you the opportunity to call in, talk to us, get at me. I love it. I can't.
Let's do it, man. So as you can see by the rundown, y'all, first topic. And by the way, if you in here and you're watching the show, I appreciate you. Make sure you hit that like, that subscribe, and make sure you share the show. Just hit that share button and get it out to other sports fans you know that might want to see it. But anyway, so first topic, as you see on the rundown, it's Luka Doncic and Dirk Nowitzki, and kind of what's the deal with this, right? We know Dirk Nowitzki is the original great Dallas Maverick, unless you really want to go back and you want to talk about, Mark Aguirre and Rolando Blackman back in the 80s. But Dirk Nowitzki is like, to this point, he's probably the greatest player ever to play for the Mavericks. Obviously, you could probably argue he's maybe the greatest European in history at the time of his retirement. He might still be, probably won't be that way for a whole lot longer, but he might still be the best European player to ever play in the NBA. But Dirk was an absolute problem, man. You see it. He had the mid range. He had the long J. He could go to the block. He had that one-legged fadeaway, which was kind of his signature shot, right? He was a champion. He was an MVP in the league. So he's got a lot on his resume, right? He might be the best shooting big man of all time. Karl Anthony Towns, he likes to think he's the best shooting big of all time, but I'm not even trying to hear that because where are those shots when you need them from him? But this is not about him, right? So Dirk is that guy. Whether he's the best European of all time, we're gonna see as the future goes, and he probably is right now, as I said. But now you've got Luka Doncic, and that dude, well, we know he's special too, right? Let's take a look at him. Obviously, he's from a different era, but this is a guy that walked into the league, averaged 20 in his rookie year, and I think he averages about 28 for his career now. Now, again, this is a different era, and a lot of that, helps in terms of him being able to put up the type of numbers he's putting up. But even though he's a guard, I think he's 6'7". He's just as good a rebounder as Dirk. He's a better passer than Dirk. He's not quite the shooter. He's a better ball handler, so he probably could do more things on the offensive end of the floor than Dirk. But he hasn't won an MVP yet. He hasn't won a championship yet. But he is in position to help the Mavericks win their second ever championship. Obviously, they're playing against the Celtics in the finals right now, so this is this is a team that can do it, right? And Dirk is obviously the main guy. So it's bringing up an interesting debate, right? And Thursday, before game one of the NBA Finals, we saw Jason Kidd. I don't know if you saw it or not, G, but I was researching the show today, and I saw it. I saw the footage of it. Jason Kidd was being interviewed by Richard Jefferson, his former teammate with the Nets, and Malika Andrews. And here's what he was asked when he got asked a question by Malika Andrews. Check this out.
You've talked about Luka in the highest of company. Dirk, Luka. If Luka wins a ring this year, does he have a shot at the claim greatest Maverick ever?
Yes.
So Jason Kidd, he was pretty definitive about it. Obviously, he played with Dirk. He won a championship with Dirk. He coaches Luka now. He was very definitive about the fact that if Luka wins this, well, I guess it wasn't definitive, right? Because he was asked if Luka has a chance to be the greatest Maverick ever. He said yes. So I'm gonna stop talking now, G, man. What are your thoughts on this kind of Luka versus Dirk thing? Who's the better player, at least to this point in their careers? And does Luka have a chance to be the best Maverick ever?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think as time go on, he'll probably supersede
Dirk. He'll probably get multiple MVPs. But it's hard to say right now because you have a lot of young talent in the league. Dirk averaged like 20. I think Luka is going to probably end up at the end of his career averaging a little more than 20, just the way he is. The kid been playing for a while. I think he started as a professional overseas at like a young age. And
Both
so
of
he
them
came
did.
in, came in the league on fire. Like
Yeah.
he wasn't on my radar. I can tell you that he wasn't on my radar. It wasn't until I seen him torch multiple guards that I was like, whew, this kid is the truth. But again, playing in a different era, playing a different position. But you can't negate Dirk's. What are you giving us in the league? I mean, he beat LeBron, right?
Big one.
He took LeBron down with 9 fingers. So
Did.
So I mean, you got to respect him. He came in the league and he saw there was a much more physical league. He changed his style of play, developed his mid-range, little fadeaway, one leg, brought a trainer in. So he adapted to what was going on in his time. Luka isn't getting slid under the hydros every time he go to the rack. It's a much more softer league, but that'll probably give Luka the advantage. Both highly skilled individual players.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. Super skilled guys. But like I was saying, when I first brought up this topic, I think that Luka has he has a more well-rounded offensive game in that he's a better passer, and even though he's shorter, he's just as good a rebounder. Now, I take the rebounding numbers with a grain of salt now because obviously we're playing at a higher pace in the modern game. There's more rebounds to be had, and there's less true big men. So it's a lot easier for us to see these guards racking up these gaudy rebound numbers. Does that mean that they're not good rebounders? No, but that means that the conditions, I always talk about this, the conditions guys are playing under allow for them to do certain things. And, that is what it is. But Luka, he's special. And again, I always hated the Larry Bird comparisons to Luka, just because he's a white guy. That's the biggest one. But when you look at the way they play, errors aside, being that they both have really good floor vision, they can pass the ball extremely well, they can initiate offense, they can both rebound. But what gets me is the similarity in that they're both slow, but they can both get to their spots almost anytime they want to. And it's really, really difficult to keep these guys from getting a shot off. And they both have, that clutch gene that Skip Bayless likes to talk about. Luka, I think his 3-point percentage on the season is like 34%. But in the playoffs, it's like 43%. You know what I'm saying? So he picks it up when he needs to, and he makes big shots. So, I see something of a comparison. Now, I'm not going to be disrespectful. Larry Bird is clearly far and away better than Luka, and I'm sure a lot of younger people are going to say Luka's better than Bird, and I'm not even going to engage in that. But I see where some of the comparisons are. But let's listen to some thoughts from Rob Parker and Chris Broussard, the odd couple, and what they had to say about the Dirk versus Luka thing, and what Jason Kidd had to say, and their thoughts on it. Check it out.
Luka's just better than Dirk. I mean, they could lose this. They could get swept in this series. Luka's a better player than Dirk Nowitzki was. I don't see how anybody, can watch the two of them play and have any other opinion. I mean, now, if you want to say Dirk is Mr. Mav because he was there for 21 years and got them their first NBA championship, that's all well and good.
Their first or
but
only.
The best
Their first or
that's
only.
Fine. But the best Maverick is Dirk Nowitzki. I mean, Luka's the best player to ever play for the Mavs.
So if they never win, if they never win, it doesn't matter. He's the best player no matter what.
I still think he's better. Because I think Barkley was better than Dirk. Okay. And Barkley never won a championship. I mean, it's not, like I said, I tell you all the time, to me, it's not just rings. It's a nuance about this thing. And when Dirk Nowitzki, Rob, and again, I don't want this to be viewed as a shot at Dirk. I'm just saying Luka is clearly better.
Wait, I just want to know, is there a history with you and Dirk that I don't know about?
Not at all. Okay. I did a story
on
Dirk for ESPN.
I'm asking.
I did a story on Dirk for ESPN the magazine. So I like Dirk. But that doesn't mean just like everybody.
No,
I'm going to keep
asking.
it real. I'm going to give. I'm just telling.
Yeah, because like the city of Toronto thinks you have something against the city. I'm just asking if there's something that
What does Toronto have to do?
Don't you remember Toronto? You said something about Toronto.
What do they have to do with a Dirk Nowitzki?
No,
Luka
but I'm
Doncic
saying like is there some backstory that I don't know? That's all I'm asking. Go ahead. I'm asking.
Anyway, Dirk Nowitzki. And again, I don't want this to be viewed as a shot at Dirk because he is an all-time great player. No question about it. But Luka Doncic, as we've said, Rob, at least I've said, he should be in the best 10 players ever discussion when he's done. And that was never said about Dirk Nowitzki. He just there. Luka is on a different level of elite player. Dirk was primarily a scorer. That was he wasn't a good defender, wasn't much of a rebounder for a 7-footer. His highest ever, never averaged 10 rebounds a game. He was primarily a scorer, and his career high average for a season in his 21-year career was 26 points a game. Luka's career average is 28.7. The thing that Dirk did best, Luka's already topping him in that. And Luka, for 5 of his 6 years, has averaged more than 26 points a game, which was Dirk's career high. He did it once.
Yeah, but there's a difference between the two players, too, isn't it?
Luka has already made 5 first-team All-NBAs. Dirk made 4 in 21 years. Luka's made 5 in 6 years.
All right, G. So they had a lot to say there. So before I go into my thoughts on it, man, what did you think about what they had to say and Chris Broussard being pretty definitive and strong in his stance that he believes Luka's just better than Dirk? Where are you on that?
They play 2 different positions. But and I look at how Dirk, the era in which Dirk played in, I mean, there's not a lot of lockdown guards. There's not a lot of people that. And now the Celtics did a really good job of getting a slow 30 or a meaningless 30 out of Luka yesterday.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that.
Yeah. I don't want to step ahead. Like I agree with what the guy's saying, but at the same time, my thing is if Luka never brings a ring home, he won't be considered better than Dirk in my opinion. He'll have more skill points, more attributes, but when it comes down to it, until he bring a ring to Dallas, it won't happen. And I'm certain if he stay in Dallas, then yes, he'll probably supersede Dirk. You know?
Okay, so you know my thing, man. We can't just blindly go with stats. Also, we can't just blindly go with rings. Like I go with kind of the totality of it when I'm evaluating a player. I look at skill set, I look at stats, I look at winning. Like all these things to me, when you put them in a blender, you get a player's ranking, right? So the first thing that kind of stuck out to me is Chris Broussard says that when it's all said and done, Luka should be a top 10 player, right? So I'm going to give you 11 guys that should all be in the top 10. So depending on who you have in there. And then my first question to you is going to be, if Luka becomes a top 10 player, who are you pushing out of the top 10? Because that's the first thing. People are quick to say, oh, this guy's a top 5, this guy's a top 10. But the question now becomes, okay, that's cool. You're putting them in. Who are you taking out, right? And so obviously most people have LeBron in there. I don't, but so be it. So you got Michael Jordan, Magic. I'm going to put LeBron for the sake of this. Kareem, Larry Bird, Olajuwon, the great Mr. Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Shaq, Tim Duncan, Kobe, right? I think that's pretty fair. Any one of those 11 guys could be in the top 10, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. My question is, which one of those guys are you pulling to put Luka in? Not you being you, but, well, you know what? If you had to make that decision, which one of those guys you pulling to put Luka in, providing his career continues on the path that it's on right now?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I would say top 75, right? We gotta get the top 75 before we can even talk about top 10. Top 10 is packed with 15 plus players who you can't move, right? I know the math. 10, yeah. So top 75, we rotating 15 in the top 10 at all times. Luka's not there. Top 75, maybe, definitely. Top 10, nah.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I
don't
can't
see it.
move anybody from that list. And
That's
like I
what
said,
I'm
it's
saying.
15. Kyrie should be in the talks of top 75. I think that was something that was going around. And I'm off topic again, but
No, it's fine.
the fact that he's not in the top 75 is crazy.
Yeah, that was kind of egregious. But we know that there was some other things going on with that in terms of media and what they, what they wanted to put out about him and how they were like how he
Yeah,
was being presented publicly. So I mean, I think there's a lot more to it than that, and other than just how good of a basketball player he is. But that's something different we can discuss at another time. But okay, so here's a couple other arguments, right? So we got that Luka's, even if he continues his career as it is, unless he wins multiple chips, none of these guys are getting pushed out for Luka, and I'm fine with that. So the next thing is Chris Broussard starts talking about how what's Luka been in the league 6 years, and he's already 5-time first team All NBA. Outstanding, Luka. That's a great accomplishment. It really is. I'm not even being facetious. Then he says, in 21 years, Dirk was only first team NBA All NBA 4 times. That's absolutely fair. But what you mentioned, G, is that they played different positions, and Dirk played power forward, right? So let
yeah,
me just mention some of the other power forwards who played while Dirk Nowitzki was playing, right?
yeah.
You and me, we about the same age, so we remember this stuff vividly, all right? Rasheed Wallace, Chris
Dog,
Webber,
dog,
Tim Duncan,
dog,
Kevin Garnett,
dog,
Amari Stoudemire.
dog.
So my question is, and this is no disrespect to Dirk, where are all these first team All NBAs that Broussard wants him to have going to be coming from when you got a bunch of all timers and Hall of Famers at the position playing at the same time as you? Like, what's going on with that? It's not that serious. What's good, bro? Good to see you, man. But yeah, G, where is that stuff coming from? That's my question.
I think it's just buzzwords, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we want to build that European legacy for
Mm-hmm.
the next up and coming players, so that we can sell the NBA worldwide, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that Luka doesn't have a bag; he does.
Oh, he
But
absolutely
Dirk,
does.
Dirk played in a position where it wasn't ball dominant. It wasn't
Right.
ball dominant, and so his looks. I mean, if we probably go back and look and see how many shots he took, you know, that'll probably, that'll give you the information you need to know to say, all right, why this person doesn't average that. He was
Mm-hmm.
more of I'll say, I gotta look at his percentages, but I'm sure his percentage is a lot higher than Luka's.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And so it's funny. And obviously, when you're dealing on radio and TV, you're not in a podcast environment. You only have a certain amount of time to get your points in. But this is where it's frustrating because it's kind of disingenuous, right? So he says, well, in 21 years, Dirk only made All NBA first team 4 times. Okay, cool. What you leave out is that he made All NBA second team 5 times, All NBA third team 3 times, right? So out of 21 years, 12 times he's All NBA. That's pretty darn good, wouldn't you say?
yeah, yeah.
Especially with, like you said, you got all those dogs playing your same position, man. That's tough sledding you got to deal with
Yeah,
darn
yeah.
near every night, you also matching up with Chris Bosh, who in his Toronto days was a monster,
Yeah, that was towards the end of his career, if I'm not mistaken, that he went up against the Boss.
Yeah, but remember, Bosh was in the league, 4 or 5 years already before they even met up with the Heatles in the finals, right? So it's not
Yeah,
like Bosh was just a rookie at that time. I think
right.
Bosh was like a 24-10 guy by that time.
Oh
And
yeah,
then obviously he went to Miami. His numbers had to change, his role changed, but you get the point.
yeah,
So you playing at that position with all those guys, man, it's tough sledding trying to get a bunch of all NBA first team nods. So that was the first thing I thought about when I heard Chris Broussard say that. I was like, man, that's kind of disingenuous. Like, where are all these selections supposed to be coming from, man?
yeah. That's
Yeah,
definitely. I think
yeah,
like someone mentioned, he's just hyping everything up.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And then the other thing I think we gotta look at too, man, is beyond just stats and championships, right? Um, you got to look at certain things are iconic, right? So you see a lot of dudes in the league now with that one-legged fadeaway. Where did that come from? So you can say that Dirk literally changed the game. You and I, we've been watching basketball a long time. You've been playing a long time. I gotta say, I don't think I've ever remembered anyone having that one leg fadeaway before we saw it with Dirk. Now we seeing Embiid with it. We seeing we seen a lot of dudes.
Yeah, it's like a spinning fade, one leg,
Mm-hmm.
a spinning one leg fadeaway, which is as
Yeah,
a 7-footer is crazy to defend.
crazy.
Yeah, so that was his signature.
That's right. And for the longest, I couldn't figure. I was like, "What's the deal with the one leg thing?" Right. Then I realized I'm like, "Oh, it creates the space, so the
Yeah,
defender can't get too close to him when he's shooting that shot. It gives him more space to see and more space to get that off, even though he's a 7-footer. So all that stuff. But yeah, I think that as it continues to go, and especially the way the media goes, and then if he gets a couple of chips and a couple MVPs, Luka will end up finishing his career probably regarded as the better Maverick all time than Dirk. But it's not that definitive now. And just to say, oh well, Luka averages more points for his career, and Luka got all these all NBA first team selections. That's kind of like, nah, let it play out some more. It's a little disingenuous, but that's me.
yeah, I agree. You can't really tell the future of what's going to happen at the end of a player's career. We can only go off of what that player's already done, right?
Right, right. And of course context is necessary. All right. What we're gonna do right here, that's the end of this topic. I'm gonna go ahead, open up the phone lines 904-219-8264. 904-219-8264. You can call in, give us your thoughts on Luka Doncic versus Dirk Nowitzki. Who's the better all-time Dallas Maverick? I'd love to hear from you, whatever side you're on. Go ahead, give us a call. Let's do it. Yeah, it's not that serious. You're 100% right, bro. I talk about it all the time, man. Today's stats are grossly inflated. You got a faster pace. You have a looser whistle. You have guys being able to get away with a lot of things. Let me go ahead and take this call. Antoine, what's good, my brother? How you doing?
You doing all right, man? How about yourself?
Maintaining, man. Maintaining. What you got?
I was just thinking about today's discussion. It's hard to have a proper sports debate because the situations aren't the same. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a late 70s or early 80s kid, we lived in an environment where we seen the best progression of basketball.
Correct.
The 90s to me, with all this TikTok and all this other rhetoric, the 90s to me was the best aspect of basketball to the early 2000s. Yeah, I haven't seen any. I mean, it was flooded with talent. It was flooded with just so many different scenarios, the rules, and everything else. I mean, everything was tangible. But it seemed like after Jordan left, it was like they had to try to fulfill it with something else. And I think like we've been living in that environment for like the past 15 years
Mm-hmm.
because as great as Kobe is, and me personally, because I was a Jordan fan, I didn't appreciate Kobe properly. I appreciate him after that.
I can see that. I
think,
get what you mean by that. Yeah.
yeah. And so it's just like all these other, things are so inflated. The rules have changed. It to me, it's super watered down. So contextually, when you think about the Luka, versus, I'm losing my thought here and apologize. But
Dirk, Luka versus Dirk.
it's not the same. Dirk he played in a much tougher era of the game, and he adjusted his game to that era.
Mm-hmm.
Luka, and don't get me wrong, Luka's a bad boy,
He is.
but he's playing in such a watered down, weakened league, and it's hard to get a proper context of who's the greatest Dallas player because of their two drastically different scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
For Dirk, he played in the finals twice. He lost to Dwayne Wade, and then won against Dwayne Wade with LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you qualify that? This is Luka's first finals. But how is the game played today? How the rules are called? They don't even they barely call traveling, they barely call carrying, they barely
Yup.
all these different things. So it's hard to contextualize the game properly in comparison to earlier eras because the rules are so different. So as much as I appreciate Luka, he brings a level of excitement. I think he's talented. I think his mentality works in almost any era, but I want to see it him playing against tougher defenses, tougher situations, and see if he can still accomplish what he's doing now. So one thing we can say about Dirk is Dirk adjusts his game to a tougher situation, and if he played today, he would dog this league. So
there's a lot of guys
so
from the
that's
past you could say that about. But yeah, you're right.
exactly, and that's my point. And so like how y'all started the program out talking about the comparison between Larry Bird and Luke and how everybody's always the next Larry Bird or next MJ or stuff like that. These players today aren't doing what they did. It's a false equivalency. Between the areas because it was a tougher area. It was harder to score. Defense was rougher, so they had to be way more technically sound.
Yep.
Better with fundamentals. All these different things. So when they say faster, stronger, all these other different narratives about today, you can't see it properly. They also talk about how well LeBron is. He played 20 years, but in those 20 years, how many 82 games did he play? So context doesn't matter. You have to qualify these things properly and give it the proper context. You're gonna make a proper assessment.
There you go. I couldn't have put it any better. You're absolutely right, man. Absolutely right. Anything else you wanted to add?
Oh no, man, that's my take, man. I'm enjoying the show, man.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the support. Appreciate you.
Oh, no problem.
All right.